today, these are typically done at the end of the fiscal years, but let's say today was the end of fiscal year. I'm going to tell the CEO, okay, I'm not paying you much as base salary, but you get to have 1 million options, which means you can buy 1 million shares of Ford at $12 a share over the next 10 years, but you can't use that right the next 3 years. That's an executive stock option. Since they don't have to do it if it's below $12, that thing has to have a value, right? Because otherwise, heads they win, tails we lose. If the company loses value, then they don't have to buy it because they have a right to buy it at 12, not obligation. But if stock goes to $50, they can go say, okay, here's $12, give me 1 million shares or 12 million bucks, and they can turn and sell it in the market for 50, 38 million. In a lot of cases, companies actually give the difference in shares. They say, don't go through that. Here's 38 million. Company's share is trading at $50. Give it a profit at 38. Divided by 50. What is that? 3.8, 7.6 million shares. Done. That's your profit. Of course, you have to pay taxes on that, but they kind of net it off. So you need to attach a value to that, and there are various methods. Again, I'm not going to talk about those in this class. We mentioned them a little bit in Finance 301. We definitely covered that, the derivatives class. But firms attach a value. Let's say they thought that these options, 1 million options, are worth $9 million. And for a 10-year option at individual firm level, that is not entirely unreasonable. But that $9 million is considered delayed compensation. I gave you something that is worth $9 million now against the work that I expect you to do for me over the next 3 years. So in accounting logic, I paid you for work that you haven't done yet. So it's prepaid, wages. So every year I'm going to write off $3 million of that as option expense. Or every quarter I'm going to write off $750,000 worth of that as option expense. Those are conveniently put under stock-based compensation. Sometimes employees are given something called restricted stock. They simply tell you, okay, I'm not gonna deal with options. Here's 1 million shares. If you were able to sell them now, they would have been worth 12 million, but you cannot sell them before you retire or over the next, before 10 years, what have you. That's called restricted stock. Again, that needs to be expensed over the vesting period again. So it's stock-based compensation. If you go to sometimes income statement, let's go to the income statement for Ford. All right. Oh, this is Amazon. I'm sorry. Let's go to Ford. Typically, it's in here. Some companies write it off as research and development, especially tech companies. Trust me, they have not spent that much money in R&D. A big chunk of that is stock-based compensation expense. So just because you see it, for example, let's look at Tesla, not Google, actually. I'm going to look at it from Finance Yahoo. That's another quick and dirty way of looking at it. If you go to financials and income statement, I wanted annual. See, R&D. Over the TTM is short for trailing 12 months. Over the next 12 months, supposedly Google spent $39.5 billion on R&D. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. It's a rephrase of one of my favorite lines from the movie Hair. Have you guys ever watched that movie? At some point, the girl gets pregnant, and the other one says, "Is the baby yours?" And he says, "Maybe it is, maybe it isn't." These are hippies. This is right before Woodstock. So let's look at the cash flow statement. As you can see, they have $20 billion in stock-based compensation. So of that 40 billion, half is stock-based compensation. Google is a very large company, so 20 billion in R&D is not too much. And let's look at their total revenues. Almost $300 billion. So they're spending less than 10% of their revenues on R&D. Probably most of that on the AI projects, for example. So be careful about those. Oh, another thing, where are you? Statement of cash flows. Before I give a break. This is Ford. Let me see. Cash payments for dividends and dividends equivalents. So they pay $2 billion in dividends, okay, cash dividends. And you also have repurchase, not much, 500 million. But here's one other identity that you need to keep in mind that we're going to use quite a bit. And there are two ways you can calculate net income. One is, sales minus cost, what have you. The other is from the other end. Okay, I made $1 billion. What did I do with it? I either paid it as dividends or I added to retained earnings. So net income is dividends paid plus change in retained earnings. Sometimes I'm not going to give you net income. I'll tell you dividends and change in retained earnings. I'll give you all the other stuff. I'm going to say, what's the depreciation number? And it's going to sound to you like, what's my uncle's name? It's not. It ends up being a simple solution of an equation. And since I made your lives easier using the goal seeker, it shouldn't be that much of a problem. You can obviously do it algebraically. There is nothing wrong with that. I respect you for that. But I don't find that civilized, right? And I'm a surgeon with the goddamn thing. And I don't like doing it. Because it's rather easy to make a mistake when you're doing algebra, if you're not paying attention. Or if you have beginnings of ADD, for example. My younger son, he's a surgeon in math, okay? Maybe you noticed, maybe you didn't. I am an obnoxious man, okay? I think very highly of myself. Among the people I met, and I met thousands of people in my life, there are only 5 people that I freely admit that they're smarter than me. I'm sure the number is a lot higher, but I'm willing to admit those 5. My younger son is one of them, okay? My older son is not. He's not dumb either, but he doesn't have that kind of quickness. This kid understood the meaning of negative numbers in second grade. He says, I said, what's negative 2 potatoes? He says, I have to give somebody 2 potatoes. Of course, you have to do it in their terms at that age. He got bored in kindergarten because he already had done the what you guys call times table. By the way, we don't ever times anything in this class. We multiply things, right? There's no verb in English called timesing. I don't know what language is that, but in English we don't. And you should not hear this from somebody whose English is his second language, right? What was I saying? Math. Oh. And but he also kind of has the beginnings of ADD. His mind is a lot faster than his hand, so he ends up making mistakes. I haven't seen a single exam where he got 100 in a math quiz or exam, even though he knew the material 50% better than anybody. Why? Because A, he wanted to get done fast so that he could play his computer games, and B, it's hand algebra. And I was very anal about those things. I always very methodically did it. In my alma mater's history, we had an econometrics professor. He taught there 30 years. I'm the only person that ever got 100 from him. To this day, he claims he made a mistake. No taking back. No, nobody cared. And before that, I got 95 to 99 range, but it just became a challenge. He was giving me 99. I said, why not 100? He says, oh, you skipped a very little step. You assume too much. I said, come on. But this way, it's much easier. Because math is not about torturing the student with algebra. Especially a lot of you come with